we run into a lot of resistance because we are very much what the system is afraid of. And so all sorts of tools come into play to suppress us. And let me just set the context here, because the Green Party seems very weak until you consider what has happened to every other independent, non-corporate party that threatens the hegemony of corporate rule. Usually what happens, and you can look at, for example, the Labour Party, which launched around the same time as the Green Party in the 1980s, but they had a very big budget and a lot of institutional support. They could never get past the spoiler accusation. They never ran candidates, and they were gone within 10 years. Peace and Freedom Party is another example of a left-leaning, progressive, non-corporate party that reflected, again, the public interest. Their agenda is very similar to Greens. We've been more kind of an environmental party as well as a social and economic justice party, but otherwise we're quite similar. There was a time when they had access to the ballot on about 15, maybe 18 states, I think, at one point, maybe 15 years ago, and they've been beaten back to where they only exist now in one state, in California. The socialist parties, which had mayors, they had senators, they had congressmen and women, and lots of local officials. They really pushed policy forward in many ways, the 40-hour week, child labor laws, and so on. They were doing very well in the early 1900s when the rules were changed in order to prevent challengers to the powers that be. They were wiped back, so they now represent only a city council here and there in occasional cities. So the playing field is very steeply tilted against public interest politics. So in the face of that, the Green Party is unique in that we have maintained the ability to challenge power for decades, and we've gotten better at it. We have been ahead of the curve. The current progressive agenda now, calling for a Green New Deal, calling for voting reform, calling for transformation of our foreign policy so that it's not brute militarism and military force. We're calling for steep reductions in our military budget and spending that money on true security. We originated the call for Medicare for all, that is, for health care as a human right for everyone. Every one of these policies, which has now been embraced by the progressive agenda, came from the Green Party. So we have been ahead of the curve. In 2012, our campaign launched the call to abolish student debt. We bailed out Wall Street. We can bail out a generation of students. We can provide public higher education for free. We know from the GI Bill that every dollar we invest in education is returned with $7 worth of economic development for the whole economy. So we have launched these policies. We have been successful in changing the agenda. But Democrats and Republicans and people who are on the corporate payroll are not going to implement those policies. So my response basically is that we are doing the work. I think we are at a world-changing moment right now. It's time to move from lip service to these policies to actually implementing them. The American people are hungry for that agenda, and the fact of genocide is a red line for every human being whose eyes are open. This is a transformational moment. We know that the majority of the American public, 68%, according to a Reuters poll, wants a ceasefire now and a diplomatic solution. 50% of the American public has been persuaded this is genocide that Israel and the U.S. are conducting. So we've never had a transformational moment like this. We think it's really important to push the envelope on all fronts. We have many candidates now who are running for Congress, for Senate, for state-level offices and city councils and so on. And I encourage more people to run, and if you'd like to talk with us, we are, that's what we're about, is creating a full political movement that can represent us at all levels of our community. This is the time to make that happen.